guys, this is Tony from ImGonnaUke, and in this lesson I want to help you with something that every ukulele player struggles with, and that's how to change chords quickly. Now, especially when you're just learning the ukulele or you're just trying to get better at it, changing chords quickly is really hard to do. Well, I'm going to show you some tips and some techniques of how to change chords quicker. So go get your ukulele tuned up and ready, because I think we're going to uke. In a previous lesson, I explained how chords used in a song are grouped together. So whatever key a song is in, that determines what chords are going to be used in that song. Well, without getting into too much music theory behind that, just know that certain chords will always appear together in a song. So for example, if a song is in the key of D, the chords in that song are going to be D, A, G, and a B minor. So let's practice changing between those chords. I want you to learn to practice chords in a group because these chords will always appear together. So practicing changing between these specific chords is going to help you out the most. All right, now let's look at the common chord progressions we're going to see in the key of D. Now we're going to play a D major with our second, third, and fourth finger. Now a lot of times you will see me just use one finger to play a D, but don't worry about that right now. So instead of playing it with our second and third and fourth finger, when we're changing from a D to a G, let's use our first, second, and third finger. And I'm going to show you why in just a second. Because in a song, if we see that we're going to change from a D to a G, and we have to make a quick change, notice your third finger. Watch your third finger. So you play a D major, and then now if you play a G major, your third finger actually moves the least of your three fingers in this case. So this time play a D using your first, second, and third finger, but don't pick up your third finger. And so what we're going to do is we're going to slide our third finger down one fret and then use our first and second finger to finish off our G shape. So by doing this, we're minimizing the movement that we need to do. We can make our chord change much quicker. Because as soon as you slide your third finger down, your first and second fingers are already in position to press down on the other strings. So if you think about when you're changing from one chord to the next, try to minimize the movement. It's called the economy of movement. So we want to try to economize. We want to try to minimize and save as much movement as possible. By the way, if you like watching YouTube videos about how to improve at playing the ukulele, I have a lot of other free lessons that you might enjoy. So please do me a favor, click like, subscribe to the channel. It's totally free, and actually it really helps other ukulele players just like you help find these videos. Now similarly, when we're changing from a G chord to a D chord, let's keep our third finger down. So we're strumming our G, keep our third finger down, we're going to slide it up one fret, place our first and second finger down for our D. Now I mentioned this in a previous lesson about keeping your fingers low to the fretboard. So when you're changing from one chord to the next, don't pick up your fingers too high. Keep them as low as you can. Just lift them up high enough so you're not touching the strings anymore. Change to your new position and then press them down again. When we're changing from a G to an A, we're going to play a G and then A. Now notice your first finger. When you're changing from a G to an A or from an A to a G, notice your first finger. Your first finger moves the least, so let's minimize that. Let's keep our first finger down the entire time, and we're just going to slide our first finger from a G position. We're going to slide our first finger to the first fret and play an A. Now similarly, when we change from an A back to a G, we're going to keep that first finger down the whole time and slide it down to the second fret to play our G. Now by minimizing the movement, you can make your chord change that much faster, but also keep in mind when you're getting ready to change chords, already picture in your head what your finger shape needs to be, the chord shape needs to be. That'll help you kind of visualize, help your chord change to be a little bit quicker. The next common chord change that you see a lot is from D to A or A to D. So this time let's play a D in our regular way with our second, third, and fourth finger, like this. Now when we switch to an A chord, or from an A back to a D, you should notice that your second finger actually stays exactly the same. So we don't need to lift it up off the neck at all. So keep your second finger down the entire time when you're playing a G. And so all you're doing is picking up your third and fourth and pushing down your first finger And then when you go from an A to a D, you're doing the opposite. You're lifting up that first finger and pushing down your third and fourth finger. All right. So if you notice, when you're changing from one chord to the next, try to figure out or find which finger is moving the least and try to even minimize that or economize that even more, where you don't have to lift up your finger at all. Maybe you can kind of slide it up or down. That'll help trim off a little bit of time, make your chord changes smoother. All right, the last chord change that we're going to look at in this chord progression is changing from a D to a B minor. Now, B minor, it is a bar chord, so I hope you're comfortable with that. If not, I do have some other videos to kind of help you with bar chords. You can check those out. So when you change from a D to a B minor, if you notice in this case, actually you're changing all your fingers. So you can't use some of the other tips or methods of sliding one finger up or down. So in this case, whether you're playing a D with your second, third, or fourth, or your first, second, or third finger, when you switch to a B minor, because it's a bar chord, you're having to change and rotate your whole wrist and your hand position around to play that B minor. Now keep in mind, if you're having to do quick chord changes, typically you're not playing those chords for a long time, right? You're playing it just for one beat, maybe half of a measure. So a thing you can do when you're changing from a D to a B minor, or even from a B minor back to a D, because in this case none of your fingers are in common with the next chord. So you think about what you're doing from a B minor to a D. You're already, when you're playing a B minor, you're already pressing down the second, third, and fourth string on that second fret. So keep your finger down. Keep barring your finger. Just lift off your third finger. And now you're basically playing a D major. Now I know you might be muting this first A string. You might be playing it. But think about when you're making that change, you're only playing it just for one beat or maybe two beats. So that D, I mean, technically it is a D6, but that D will be fine. Now to get smoother at these chord changes and get a little bit quicker, it does take some practice. So using your practice time, practice these chord changes together as a group. So when you're changing from a D to a G, remember to keep that third finger down. When you're changing from a G back to a D, keep that third finger down and play a D this way when those changes are. If you don't need to make a quick change, you can play a D the regular way. Similar if you're changing from like a D to an A, you're just lifting up your second and third, putting down your first. Or if you're going from an A to D, it's the opposite. Keep that second finger down, lift up your first finger, put down your second, or your third and fourth, sorry. So everywhere you can, notice the fingers that don't need to move at all, or fingers that move very little, and try to minimize or economize those movements. Now these techniques will help improve the smoothness and the quickness of your chord changes. Now you do have to practice, sorry, there's no shortcut. You have to practice a little bit. But by using these techniques, by noticing which fingers you can minimize the movement, that helps smooth out your chord changes. It helps make them quicker, so you can make changes in between a measure, in between certain beats. Well, I hope you learned something in this lesson. If you do, please give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And until next time, have fun playing and God bless.